Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the South Carolina Gamecocks Dynasty here on EA Sports College Football 25, and I'm so excited for this episode because we'll be going through the entire offseason for year number 2 as we gear up for the second year in the series. If you're excited for this one, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty Mode content. I can assure you it was a wild offseason. And I can't wait to bring you more as we've already gotten through year number 1 and we're ready for year number 2. But let's go ahead and get into it, not waste any more time. Quickly, we'll take a look at our schedule from last year, see how it went down. We started off the year by beating Old Dominion pretty good and then went on the road and beat Kentucky 24-10 in a big game for us. And then we lost at home to LSU in a game we were up by 17 in the fourth quarter and we still somehow lost. Survived Akron by 7 points and then beat Ole Miss by 3. Then we lost to Alabama, a classic in Oklahoma we won. And then we lost to Texas A&M and Vanderbilt. That was our low light of the season. Beat Missouri, beat Wofford, and then, well, that was actually our low light. We lost to Clemson 55-13. Here's a look at the bracket. If you saw in the last episode, Oregon lost to Ohio State. So the Buckeyes are your national champions going into the next year. And it was a wild bracket to say the least. So let's get into the offseason, starting off with the players leaving, and it's a lot of them. We had a lot of people transfer out. Look at the list here, because apparently we missed out on a bowl game. Our brand exposure went down, and because of that, a lot of players left. Vicari Swain, a freshman starting corner last year, is heading to the transfer portal. DQ Smith, also on the way out right here from Columbia, so there's 2 secondary guys gone. How about Trey Bobolade, our starting tackle last year? He wasn't the best. That's an offensive lineman down. DJ Braswell, he was supposed to be the starting halfback. Sanders graduates, and so does Attaway. Now we got to find a new halfback. We lose 3. And then a freshman, Wendell Gregory. Also, one of my house rules is I'm not going to persuade transfers to stay. Other teams do not, so I'm not going to as well. If they want to transfer, we just got to bite the bullet. The rest are freshmen that aren't as high on the list, but still unfortunate to lose. And that's on top of all the graduations we had. We had a ton of players graduate this year. It was over 30 players leaving the school. You can see Joshua Simon graduate. He was our starting tight end, our starting center. Lee Went, Attaway, we talked about him. A lot of these guys were transfers from last year as well, which is kind of what you expect. I mean, we're losing our starting punter as well. As Call of Duty updates. Kyle Kennard was a starting linebacker for us. Gage Larvadain had some ups and downs, but he was a contributor on offense. We also lost Simpkins, so we lost 2 top centers. So we're going to have a lot of guys to replace. Our captain of the defense, Debo Williams, is gone. Campbell had a couple of nice touchdowns down the stretch. Elijah Davis, O'Donnell Fortune. So because of Swain's transfer, we lose our top 2 corners. Tonka Hemingway anchoring the line. He's gone. Bam Martin Scott, who got some reps at outside linebacker. Right guard Kamar Bell. And then Luke Doty, who's been there forever. Raheem Sanders is gone, our starting halfback. He's actually probably going to get drafted, so that's kind of exciting. Unfortunately, we're not doing a Madden series to see their careers. Thanks, EA, for making a not very good game. Huggins Bruce also gone, as well as Huntley. So a lot of guys to replace for this team. We have done a pretty good job in recruiting, but one guy I want to highlight, Jalen Milroe, is deciding to transfer. Where did that come from? Alabama is losing their starting quarterback to the transfer portal. So with that being said, let's go ahead and figure out who we're going to replace these guys with as we enter the recruiting part, the best part of the offseason. And right away you can see we got some bad news there. But here's a look at the transfer portal and all the guys in it. Obviously the guy at the very top of the list is going to be Jalen Milroe. Cannot wait to see where he goes to school next year. There's also another 5-star player, cornerback Maxwell Hairston, who played at Kentucky last year, is also transferring. He's a junior, and he looks like he might head to the Big Ten. So that's kind of nice for us. So here's a look at our board currently. We're going to have to get rid of one guy, Steven Latsko. We lost some coaching prestige, so he's locked us out. So not a good start to the offseason for us, as I did like his ability as more of a pass rusher. So let's go to the portal and see who's interested in coming to South Carolina. There is one guy who has us interested, number 1, and that's wide receiver Eric Ayomanor, who played last year for the Stanford Cardinal, a 4-star wide receiver. He's one guy I'm going to put on, and the other guy I'm going to put on right away is 4-star Cam Robinson. We're 5th on his list. He played at Virginia last year, but we got to replace our captain of the defense. So we're going to go ahead and scout these guys, starting off with Alma, and he looks like an absolute stud as a sophomore. 95 catch in traffic. He's got blazing 94 speed, 92 spec catch. Yeah, you're definitely getting a scholarship. Cam Robinson trying to find a new middle linebacker now, and he's got some pretty good traits. His block shedding is a little low, and his speed is not the highest, but I do need a new middle linebacker, so Cam Robinson will also get one of those scholarships. Now, with such a large recruiting class, we can only offer 3 scholarships to transfers. So the last guy I want to target is a halfback, Braylon McReynolds, who was a 4-star who spent last year with South Alabama. Considering we lost 3 halfbacks in the graduating class and transfers this year, I thought we probably need to replace him at all. He's not the most flashy at 5'8". I think he could be a serviceable starter next season. So we're going to offer him the scholarship. And here's a look at how the first wave will go. Alma is a guy I'm very confident. Robinson is going to be a little bit of a fight. McReynolds, I think nobody's really gone after him yet, so we can kind of jump. And then the rest of our recruits. The good thing also is the fact that we've offered and gotten so many players already. We can put a lot of points into the guys we want and still have enough down the board. I think some of these guys are so close to committing, especially the freshmen. We could go all in on a lot of players really early on in this cycle. That's the dividend for being active early in recruiting during the season. But let's go ahead. Here's a look at the 12 players who are currently on our board, and go ahead and sim week number 1 of recruiting, and we get some commits right out of the gate. Center Stephen Colombo, the 3-star from Georgia, commits. That's good because remember we just lost our top 2 centers this offseason, as well as athlete Kamani Evanson, who's a 3-star, who's also listed as a center. Now we're going to remove one guy from the board. Chris Cheeseman is apparently a bust at corner, and we've gotten a lot of corners in this class, so I feel like we don't necessarily need him. And I want to try to get one more player from the transfer portal. I want to take a look at maybe a 2-star guy who's a little bit under the radar we could find. Samaj Turner was a guy I thought about, but I just don't think he's really where I want. Junior Cyrus Dansby, a safety. Try to get some more secondary help, but with 70 zone as a junior, that's not going to cut it. Jada Bethea, a freshman 2-star from Georgia. He's got pretty decent skills, but that 77 speed scares me, so he's not going to be the man. Eventually, we fall on 3-star Nathan Lelock, a wide receiver who played at Tennessee last year from Raleigh, North Carolina, and he has the skills. 86 catch in traffic, 86 spec catch, 83 deep, 94 speed. Only North Carolina to compete with. I think we could potentially get into this battle. So we're going to add Lelock to the board, and our board for week 2 is set. And with all the commits we got, we can go all in on everybody in this board, and everybody besides the transfers has visits scheduled for this week, so there's a chance to really put a stamp on this recruiting class in week number 2. And we only get one player, left guard Demetrius Roberts, a 3-star from North Carolina who has the bust gem, so wasn't the best week for us. We take a look at the board, and Alma looks good, but Cam Robinson, we fall into 3rd behind our rival in Clemson. That's not what we like to see. Georgia Tech's getting into the McReynolds battle, and North Carolina has really pulled ahead for Lelock. Back to Robinson, we fall to 3. I really thought about right here dropping him from the board and potentially trying to get somebody else, but we're going to stick with it with Cam Robinson. I don't want to give up just yet. Lelock is another guy I thought about potentially backing out on, but we did discover in the recruiting that he has a check mark next to play style, which is A+. So with that to our advantage, we're going to go ahead and schedule him a visit, try to make one last-ditch effort to get into the Nathan Leacock race as we sim week 3. And we get a couple of commits, some freshmen. 4-star Danny Kaufman, a safety from Georgia, commits, as well as the 4-star blocking tight end Jason Bickett from North Carolina. So we get a couple of 4-stars to add to our class. We also get athlete Amari Algier from Conway, South Carolina. He will play at wide receiver. And as well as corner Iwangambi Ogbongimiga from Georgia. So here's a look at our class going into the final week. We have 5 guys on the board, and we've re-entered first place for Cam Robinson. Leaving him on the board proved to help. We're in the driver's seat now. Now, unfortunately, though, for Leacock, even with the visit, it doesn't seem like it's going to be enough to get him from North Carolina. And then Raekwon Wembley should commit any time now. in next week. So we are going to drop Leacock from the board. I want to try to get one more guy, and I just think we're a little bit too far from him. I put left guard Sharif Miles, a 2-star who played last year at East Carolina as a freshman, on the board. He only has an offer from Georgia Southern, so I feel like us coming in late as a Power 4 school, we could potentially steal him away. So here's a look at our board into the final week. Everybody besides Miles also has visits this week, and everybody's getting max points. So can we really put the closing signatures on this recruiting class? Who will these 5 players decide to go play for? Let's not waste any more time. Let's sim the final recruiting week. And the newest Gamecocks are Alec Ayomanor, the wide receiver, does commit. This one was never really in doubt, but he is going to help the offense. Him, Harbor, and Brown are going to be a nasty trio for Sellers. On defense, we do get Cam Robinson. We had to fight, but we get him from North Carolina and Clemson, the new captain of the defense. And then Braylon McReynolds as well. We get the 4-star halfback from Mobile, Alabama, so he will be the halfback going into this new year, as well as 4-star wide receiver Raekwon Wembley, who we didn't discover until late to the cycle, and I'm glad we did because he will be joining the Gamecocks. The only guy we did not get was Sharif Miles. He did actually choose Georgia Southern instead. It was a little too late, but that's going to do it for the 34-man recruiting class. How about that? So we had 34 Gamecocks in this offseason. I knew this was going to be a year of turnover. I knew we were going to lose a lot of players to graduation. I did not think we'd lose as many as we did to transfers, but we cap it off by adding 34 of our own. That's another reason why I picked the Gamecocks in this year, is because I knew I'd have a lot of roster turnover early, and well, we're able to add a lot of our guys into the class. So I'm excited for that. Here's where all the top players went, if you want to know where all the 5-stars went. A lot of them went to Miami. They had an insane recruiting class. They actually ended up with the top-ranked class. We went on a couple of 5-stars, didn't get any of the 3, and ironically enough, all 3 are going to be staying in the SEC, which is where a lot of the 5-star players went, which means we're going to see a lot of these guys progress as players as long as they don't transfer out, and as well as Clemson getting a few, so we'll see them every year. And then a couple of guys went to the Big Ten early on. Texas got some guys. Kansas State gets a 5-star tackle. Then we see Texas Tech get a 5-star corner at the end. As far as the transfers, where's Jalen Milroe going to play? He's going to Texas. Don't they have Arch Manning? Why did they go after Jalen Milroe? I'm a little surprised by that one, but nonetheless, he stays in the SEC after all. Maxwell Harrison will not stay in the SEC. He's going to go to Michigan State, so we won't have to see him anymore. It's a big get for the Spartans, who did not have a good year this year. You can take a look at some where the other top-rated transfers went. Isaiah Bond goes to Georgia, and we will see them progress at new schools. So to cap off recruiting this year, it was definitely a success. We end up with the 11th ranked class. For the Gamecocks, that is a huge W. Definitely worthy of applause. The only downside is even though we were 11th, we're 7th in the SEC. My goodness, is it hard to recruit in this conference. Just so many nasty schools at the top, and that's why the Southeastern Conference is one of the best, if not the best, in all of college football. Here's a look at the top-rated recruiting class, the top 25. Miami gets the top spot. Texas, Georgia, and Michigan will follow by LSU, Alabama, Notre Dame up there. Tennessee, Penn State gets in at number 9. Florida at 10. They had a late start, but they did get a good end. Clemson right behind us, then Oregon, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Auburn, Ole Miss, TCU, USC, Nebraska, NC State, and Wisconsin and company round out the top 25. As far as custom conferences, the only change we're going to make is put UMass in the MAC, just like in real life. No other big changes yet. That might be down the road. And here's an opening look at our schedule next year. I put the real opponents, actually the game, put the real opponents in there for us, which is really cool. The only change is we have to go at Virginia Tech in week 1. There's no way to put neutral site games in on the custom schedule, which is kind of a bummer because that game is supposed to take place at a neutral site. If there is and I don't know about it, please let me know in the comment section. And the other thing is all of our SEC opponents are the same. I'm not sure if that's supposed to happen. I'm not sure if that's a bug. I haven't heard anything about that. But I want to play some of the different schools. So hopefully that gets fixed in the future. Also, this is tentative. This hasn't been locked in yet. But this is what the schedule is probably going to look like going into next season. And this is not tentative. This is what our roster will be going into the 2025 college football season. We lost a lot of players, but we gained a lot of players as well. And I do think we are a better football team. Sellers will be a sophomore. We've added some offensive weapons. The offensive line, though, does have me a little worried. I do think we went down a little bit there with some of our graduations. But with all the guys leaving, I thought we did pretty good in terms of replacing them. And we'll see what happens in year number 2 of this series. I cannot wait to jump into it. That will be happening next week. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. The support on this series has been insane, and I thank you guys all for it. Couldn't do this without you guys. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty Mode content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.